we are losing to a tune of about 40 billion, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, we have a lot of responsibilities, and we must honor our international obligation in terms of paying our debt, Mr. Speaker. And we congratulate the President because he has said we cannot continue to borrow. We must look for means and ways to sustain ourselves as a nation, Mr. Speaker. On top of that, he brought the subsidies. And I want to correct the member who said that there is no fertilizer of 2,500 shillings. That fertilizer is even in my constituency. I'm a farmer. I'm learning how to farm because we must do what you call corrective responsibility. In our small farm, even if it's 100 by 100, we must help the president to make sure that we are food sustainable. We can be able to sustain ourselves in terms of food security in our nation, Mr. Speaker. And I bought that fertilizer, 2,500 shillings. Even myself as a member of parliament, I bought it in my constituency, just next a few steps here in Kiamba, Mr. Speaker. And if they don't have the fertilizer of 2,500 shillings, I can even help her to make sure that she access the fertilizer if she doesn't want to access the fertilizer, Mr. Speaker. It is ignorance of the highest order. It is misleading to say that that the fertilizer is still at 6,500. As you are aware, Mr. Speaker, we are actually expecting to have a bumper harvest for the first time because we agree that we are not going to do subsidies in terms of consumption, but production, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, to a tune of about 50 million bags, for the first time, we are certain that in the next maybe 1 year, our country will be able to sustain itself in terms of food allocation. He had talked about TVETs. He makes sure that we increase and make sure that we have TVETs in all our constituencies. He's talking about the KMTC. He talked about universal health, Mr. Speaker. After you have, gotten food to eat at any time of the day, the next big thing is about your health. And we really appreciate what the president and the executive are doing to reorganize the health sector by making sure that the hustlers now will be able to access health care. Even if you don't have money to pay for NHIF, the government will be able to pay for you so that every time you go to a hospital, you can be able to access health care. Those are some of the interventions that the government has done to make sure at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, we take care of our people. Therefore, the Hustlers Fund, it is there. Whoever is saying that you cannot borrow 4 million, it is actually misleading.
The Honorable Kiborek, followed by the Honorable Oyula, and the Honorable Rebecca Tonkei. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand here to give credit to the President because our President was elected at such a difficult time that we can equate to the time of Winston Churchill when he was appointed into office by the King of then and the Queen of then. And it was during such a difficult time when he addressed the House of Commons, and he said, in his time, it was time of blood, toil, tears, and sweat. We can't equate with our situation in Kenya, where President William RUTO was elected to office at the time when our economy was facing depression. We were going through the downtown of the curve of economic, and the president came in handy to resuscitate our economy, which was not doing good. He has done his bit. He's then doing his bit. It's only that it is easy to criticize the man in the arena, like it was once said. All of these members here come from constituencies, and they are criticized such a time when the constituent feel they are not doing good. But the effort they are giving, they know themselves that it is very difficult to govern at such a time when there's economic crisis. Mr. Speaker, on the key issue of education, the President made a deliberate move to put about 27% of our budget to education, and he was elected when CBC was about to take off. He has done his best in putting CBC into the right path. He's been able to employ teachers up to the tune of 56,000, which has never been seen in this country before. And we want to echo President for that because education is the foundation of our growth and our economic growth as a country. The President did well when it comes to health matters. I myself, I sit in a committee of health, and we came up with 3 bills or 4, including the Social Insurance Fund, Primary Health Care Fund, and Critical and Emergency and Critical Disease fund which will be able to bring our economy and do a radical reform in our economy, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I can assure you, sitting in a committee of health in the next 10 or so months, our health system will have changed and there will be a paradigm shift from how we used to do things in this country. He brought about the 100,000 community health promoters, which will go a long way in being able to identify and be able to solve the issues of diseases at the primary health level. Mr. Speaker, KEMSA, since the time of COVID, has been facing a downturn and has been in total crisis and total problem. But the president, in his own wisdom, was able to come up with a plan to resuscitate KEMSA and to bring back KEMSA, because that is what will be able to give drugs to our hospitals and to be able to make our health system run. And we want to commend the team at the KEMSA and the president, and even in the budget, the president increased money to the KEMSA so that we're able to pick from where it was and be able to serve this country well. Mr. Speaker, the issue of cattle rustling, which I come from a northern part of this country, which is facing a very serious challenge, we want to commend the president. He is on a journey to silence the guns, which has been terrorizing our people. He spoke well about it, and his formula seems to be bearing fruits. And we want to tell the president that we support him. As Kenyans of goodwill, as Kenyans who love peace, we have to stand with the president so that he's able to bring to end the menace of insecurity which has been in this country since independence. Mr. Speaker, the issue of fertilizer, some of these members here who come from towns and come from areas where they have not seen agriculture don't know the impact the fertilizer subsidy has brought to this country. We want to encourage the president and echo him for what he has done to be able to subsidize fertilizer and to transform agriculture in this country of ours. Mr. Speaker, president is president at such a time that there is no any other leader who could have taken Kenya through these challenges we are facing at the moment. Had we gotten the handshake brothers, Mr. Speaker, this country will be a banana republic, but thanks to the genius of William Ruto that he has been able to keep the country going and able to remove the country off the economic cliff which was facing and was courtesy of the handshake brothers, Mr. Speaker, who today we are seeing even they constructing an airport which is leaking. Mr. Speaker, it's a shame that handshake brothers were ruling this country at such a time that we were in the last 3 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is it Tonkei who's next? Tonkei. Huh?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order, order. Yes, the Honorable Oyula, followed by the Honorable Tonkei, followed by Jessica Mbalu, and the MP from Magarini. We'll just go in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also comment on the presidential speech. Mr. Speaker, the President in his speech started very well. The President identified the key economic problems the nation was facing. And these were external shocks, fiscal distress, and structural imbalances. So you start by identifying the problems that you are faced with, which the President did very well. He identified the problems, and now he expounded the key thrusts of his economic agenda. So the key areas of his economic agenda, Mr. Speaker, covered expanding agricultural production to deal with cost of living. We are all talking about cost of living, and the President was very clear that agricultural production will help to reduce the high cost of living. Mr. Speaker, he further went on to talk about affordable housing to increase jobs and dignified living. The President also talked about universal health coverage, which is a very important area for this country, as we have a lot of health problems in the rural setup. The President also talked about digital transformation to create jobs and efficient access to government services. This, Mr. Speaker, is going to help the youth of this country to be able to search for jobs and communicate freely with the others. Mr. Speaker, the President then shifted to debt situation in Kenya. And then he mentioned that starting this month of December, the government is going to pay off part of the Eurobond loan by about 300 million Kenya shillings. That, Mr. Speaker, is an assurance that our debt situation was going to be reduced, because Eurobond, Mr. Speaker, has been the biggest problem for this country. In his speech, Mr. Speaker, the President dwelt very much on transformation agenda. Transformation can be very costly and painful. Hence, it is important that Kenyans must accept to go through this painful situation where we are now, moving from bad economy and trying to go to a better living standard. Mr. Speaker, throughout the speech, of the President, he mentioned issues that affect the Kenyans, but all these did not clear the situation as was expected by the Kenyans. Like in education sector, Mr. Speaker, the education sector is still contaminated with a lot of corruption, which needs to be looked into very urgently. Mr. Speaker, that area, the country needs to balance the deployment of teachers across the country. Mr. Speaker, I beg to support.
Honorable Tonkei, Rebecca Tonkei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving this opportunity to contribute on the presidential speech, which was delivered on Thursday last week. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to congratulate the President for giving us a speech, which is actually the State of the Nation address, which captured what we have, the government of Kenya Kwanza has done for the last 1 year. Mr. Speaker, sir, looking at the education sector, which I am a member of the Education Committee, I want to congratulate the President for employment of 56,750 new teachers and training of the 8,200 teachers, primary school teachers for JSS. Mr. Speaker, this is the first time coming from Narok County that our children or our teachers have had an opportunity to be employed. Mr. Speaker, sir, with the new rule that was taken by TSC from the Education Committee, we got an opportunity for all the teachers who are trained in Narok County to be employed. So, Mr. Speaker, and I believe our honorable member said that there was no opportunity for people to be employed, then that's not true, Mr. Speaker, sir, because every person from every county got the opportunity to be employed as a teacher. Mr. Speaker, sir, the issue of entry requirement for teachers, this has seen an increase of 300%, and I'm a witness to this, Mr. Speaker, sir, because in Narok, for example, we have a teachers training college which had gone down. It was the only institution where you find the tutors are more than the students. And Mr. Speaker, sir, we've seen teachers colleges now with so many teacher trainees of up to 20,000 456. Mr. Speaker, sir, on the universal health care, the health laws that we pass, Mr. Speaker, sir, is going to go a milestone for our people in Kenya. For example, Mr. Speaker, sir, the issue of the people contributing 300 shillings up from 500 shillings is a gain for all Kenyans who could not contribute, who are not able to contribute the 500 shillings. We are all aware as politicians that every time we do so many rampages so that we can cater for medical expenses for people who are ailing. And with the new health coverage, Mr. Speaker, sir, our people are going to get medical cover, they're going to get insurance, and therefore, with this one, we are going to go another step ahead as Kenyans. And I know this one is going to help the common mwananchi. Mr. Speaker, sir, the issue of Hustler Fund, which has been effected by the Kenya Kwanza government, is also another thing that has helped Kenyans. We are aware that many Kenyans have been able to access this, and therefore hustlers are able to do their day-to-day businesses. And Mr. Speaker, sir, we all agree that, you know, sometimes people want to do business, but they lack financial support. But with the Hustlers Fund, Mr. Speaker, sir, our people can access that money, do business, and refund the money back. Mr. Speaker, sir, the issue of appointment of the 6 judges, which was impunity. And I want to say this one was the first thing that it was an achievement for us as Kenya Kwanza. And the president appointed these judges. He also increased enhanced their allocation of Kenya shilling 3 billion. And Mr. Speaker, sir, that is facilitating the judiciary so that they can serve better. And I beg to support the president, and he did very well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
The Honorable Jessica Mbalu, followed by the MP for Magarini, followed by Lady Kemei of Kericho County, and the Honorable RUTO Julius. In that order, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving this opportunity to contribute to the State of the Nation address by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, before I critique the speech, I must say that the President did well just to appear before the Parliament and, of course, admitting and appreciating the members of Parliament as democratically elected representatives of the people. We are represented by members of Parliament from different constituencies, democratically elected. Mr. Speaker, on his note number 2, he said that he has a substantial report to give on the progress made in fulfilling this solemn covenant. And while I was in the Parliament, Mr. Speaker, for us to get the gist of what he was coming to do, Mr. Speaker, he was supposed to take us through the measures taken by his government under his leadership to give full expression and effect of, you know, the constitution dispensation. How far has he done? Mr. Speaker, he did a very big, very detailed speech. In fact, this speech, it is just a policy. Detailed speech, talking about the vision, talking about his dream. But I hear, after getting to the office, I expected the president to give us his scorecard. What has he been able to achieve? The Speaker, on the issue of employment, from the 13th of September to 9th of October, when he gave his speech, how much has he been able to achieve in terms of employment? How many youth has he employed? How many in numbers? And of course, that can be, you know, substantiated, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in terms of infrastructure, we expected, because we are still, I think, his government is still in the vision, the mission, the dreaming part of it. And I expect it for 1 year to be doing the evaluation, the monitoring of the works that he has been able to do. Because by the time we get to the policies, I'm sure these are some of the policies, and I'm sure he was not speaking to us. He was speaking to even other constituencies. Mr. Speaker, infrastructure, how many kilometers of road has been done, tarmacked in Kibwezi East? The ones that he really thought, and because he has been the government for long, how many have been tarmacked? How many have been tarmacked in Mokorei? How many have been taken in Kajiado and other places? And I think that is the scorecard that we expected. In fact, the common Mwananchi was listening, us as representatives of the people who were listening. Mr. Speaker.
What's your point of order, the Honorable Tonkate? Had better be a serious point of order?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, is the member in order to say that the president was not able to substantiate the number of youths he has employed, and again, that he has not given his scorecard, and yet, Mr. Speaker, sir, what the president gave was actually his scorecard for the whole year. Mr. Speaker, sir, the number of teachers, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Tonkei, Rebecca, order.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. This is my 13th year in this parliament.
The president is a public property. He is the president for the Republic of Kenya. And, you know, these things are policy matters. People have their different opinions, and this is a house of opinions. You might not necessarily agree with that lady. When you get your opportunity, give your scorecard in the manner you want it. But allow everybody else to, however irrelevant you think they are, but then still allow it. It's the democracy. It's unfortunately the rules of democracy, and he's happy with that, I'm sure. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I have been in this parliament for 13 years now. And we have had different speeches, and I must also be able to know which is good and which is bad. I am here not to say the president bad, but what is supposed to have been done at the stage of his vision and mission for the country. And I must tell the members of Kenya Kwanza, the president is not for Kenya Kwanza alone. Just like you. When you have been elected, you are the member of your constituency. But in the terms for oversight, we must tell him what he is supposed to do. In fact, I want to advise that he looks at his advisory team and ensures they do better. Mr. Speaker, I was saying the scorecard in terms of from the 13th September to 9th of October. My people would want to hear the number of connection of electricity the last miles. How often have we been able to achieve in Kibwezi's constituency, in Makwiny County, the cost of living, what people are expecting to hear. And I'm sure that is what he should have done. Maybe the next speech he will give us the same. How has he dealt with the cost of living? The people who are crying, Mr. Speaker. How has he dealt with the fuel? We do not want a situation where we increase fuel and then we reduce, we not play with our mind, we reduce to a point where it is still higher than it was increased from. Mr. Speaker, how many title deeds have we been issued? If it's in Makwiny, how many title deeds from this year to this year? The water sector, how many people have been able to get water? How many families, teachers? You talked about 56,700. Those are very few. How many have been employed? How many have been trained? Expected to have more than 150. And this is what I'm telling my member, that's what we call scorecard. Mr. Speaker, education, infrastructure. Here we are talking about NGCDF, where we are talking about, the matching. How many classes have been built for this?
I had given the next person. Yes, the MP from Magarini, I believe, followed by Madam Kemei, followed by RUTO, followed by the MP for Lamu East, and followed by the MP for Kitutu Chache. Is he there, Japheth? Yes, proceed on that order, and then I'll give the next round. Proceed.
Asante, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa kunipatia fursa hii nami nikapate kuchangia katika hotuba ya Rais. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwanza nianze na kumpongeza Mheshimiwa Rais kwa hotuba yake ambayo ameangazia mambo mengi ambayo yeye mwenyewe amepata kuyatenda pamoja na utawala wake. Mheshimiwa Spika, nikiangalia swala la walimu, Kitu ambacho pengine kitakuwa hakikuniendea sawa ni kwamba katika walimu hawa 56,000 laiti kama wangegawanywa sawa sawa kwa zile constituency ama maeneo bunge 290, hapo tungeona ya kwamba eneo bunge moja lingeweza kupata walimu 180 na kuzidi, ambapo tungeweza kukimu kwa baadhi yetu ambao tuna uhaba zaidi, tungeweza kuona kwamba tunakimu sehemu hiyo ya elimu. Na pia vile vile tukizingatia usawa wa nafasi za kazi, naona ni muhimu hata kwa siku za usoni kwamba nafasi zote za kazi, iwapo ni kwa idara za usalama, iwapo ni kwa idara za huduma ya taifa, zingeweza kugawanywa maeneo bunge. Hapo tungeweza kusaidika zaidi. Pia vile vile nimpongeze rais kwa uamuzi wa kwamba wale vijana ambao wameenda kwa huduma ya taifa wanapohitimu masomo yao ama kozi zao, wanayo nafasi ya kwanza kuajiriwa katika vikosi vya usalama hapa nchini. Hilo ni jambo la kusaidia, maana ukiwaangalia hawa vijana hawapati chochote, lakini wanajitolea katika nyanja zote kuona ya kwamba wanahudumia taifa hili bila kuogopa, bila wasiwasi, na wala bila kujali hata maslahi yao. Hapo hatua hiyo ya rais ni hatua ambayo inastahili kupongezwa. Pia vile vile kwa huu mradi wa nyumba zenye gharama nafuu, ni mradi ambao unastahili pia vile vile kupongezwa, tukizingatia ya kwamba tuko na wakati mgumu kabisa kwa wakati huu kiuchumi, lakini vile anavyojisatiti kuona kwamba miradi hii inaendelea, na hata vile ambavyo ameweza kutupa matumaini watu wa Magarini kwamba hivi karibuni huu mradi utatufikia. Ni tamaa yetu kwamba unapotufikia, kwanza utabuni nafasi za kazi, na pia vile vile utatoa makao kwa wale ambao pia hawawezi kupata nyumba za bei nafuu na kuweza kuishi katika mazingira mazuri. Kwa hakika Mheshimiwa Rais yuko na maono mazuri kwa nchi hii. Tatizo ni kwamba baadhi yetu sisi wananchi wa Kenya hatuna yale maono aliyonayo, wala hatuwezi kuyaangazia kwa undani tukajua amelenga wapi. Tusikose kufahamu ya kwamba panapo mawimbi mazito, papo hapo ndipo palipo na mlango. Mula ni mla leo, mla jana leo kalani. Hilo ndilo linalotusumbua sisi. Tunataka kila kitu kiwe chaweza kufanyika sawa sawa na bila wasiwasi wowote kwa wakati ambao hata haiwezekani. Ni lazima tuwe na wakati mzuri wa kuona kwamba tunapatia nafasi nchi kuweza kupona. Kufikia hivi sasa nchi imeanza kupona pole pole. Kwa Kiingereza, the country is healing now and we need to give it time.
Asante. So, as part of the rules, if you start with English, you end with English. If you're too comfortable with Swahili, you do the whole presentation, or rather, in Swahili. Thank you, in Swahili. It's Madam Kemei, followed by the MP for Kitutu, Chache. And the MP for Keses, yes. And Keses is RUTO, yeah. And then proceed on the basis of that. I'll give the second round. I think most of you will have had a chance to say something on this speech, on this address by the President. Proceed, Madam Kemei.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to speak about the speech of the President. And on the onset, I want to appreciate and say that the speech of the President was on point, accurate, and it has an impact on now and the future. I want to be very specific to some areas. To start with is the side or the sector of agriculture, where we have reforms in the coffee, tea, milk, and sugar sector. I appreciate this, Honorable Speaker. I come from Kericho County, where all these products, the coffee, the tea, milk, and sugar are grown. Not forgetting even the horticultural like avocados. So with the subsidized fertilizers, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that we at the moment have food security. Maize being the main food for us, or the product of that, the unga. And in Kericho, Honorable Speaker, we grow so much of it. So for those who are saying they don't know if it is true that the korokoro is between 60 and 75, they should visit Kericho, they should visit Trans Nzoia and buy from them. I'm only concerned, Honorable Speaker, that we wouldn't want to have the price coming down below that, because farmers have to get profit from the produce. So with that, I say the fertilizers are distributed, but I pray and plead that the chiefs should make sure that they are fairly distributed and taken to the people on time, so that they don't move up and down for the same. Though it is not mentioned about the tea, he didn't mention tea in the speech, I want to say the reforms in the tea sector is being seen. For example, Honorable Speaker, the partners came and there was increase in the pockets to the farmers, and I appreciate that. The coffee at the same time. Now coming to milk, the president in his speech talked of having the coolers to boost the quality of the milk. I pray that the price of milk should also come up, so that we don't have the farmers getting less than 50 shillings per liter. On health matters, universal health coverage, I appreciate that. In the main thing, the health promoters going to the people and visiting the many Kenyans is a plus to us, because a healthy person or a healthy nation is a wealthy nation. Employment of 200,000 new health workers is a plus to us, adding to the side of employment. Not to forget that we have more of these health promoters also getting a source of income to their families. Honorable Speaker, when it comes to savings, the saving culture, which was not there, has been improved. And that is why in NSSF, the savings has grown to 6.5, and I appreciate that. The Hustler Fund, where we have most of our hustlers getting money from that, borrowing and returning, that is a plus to us. And education sector, employment of 56,000 plus teachers is something that has not been there before. And therefore, I ask our people to be patient. The standard of living is still is coming down, and with time, I believe, come the next year when we'll have the next speech, I'm sure it will have improved. The economic situation will have improved, and the cost of living will have come down. And Honorable Speaker,
proceed, the Honorable RUTO.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity you've given me to also weigh on the speech made by Secretary of the President during the State of the Nation address in this honorable House. And Mr. Speaker, I want to start off by saying, if there is a man that has proven to be a man enough to tackle the challenges Kenyans are facing, is the President of the Republic of Kenya. From his speech, he never gave a speech that was full of cosmetic promises or cosmetic words to just to please Kenyans, but rather he came out candidly and expressed the confidence he has and he has been given by Kenyans from the trust he has been given to serve as a president. What am I trying to put across? Coming out and telling Kenyans the real situation, that we are facing dire, tough situations as Kenya from the economic conditions we are facing in, that most of these conditions are not only generated from within our nation, but most of them are put in from the external challenges, economic politics of the world that is seriously affecting us by virtue that more than 70% of our consumption is from importation. And most of this comes with what we call import inflation. Mr. Speaker, we will appreciate that USA right now are working on the economic challenges, inflation, by virtue that Federal Reserve has worked on their monetary policy to ensure that they mop back all their dollars in the economy and even outside the economy. This has effect even on us that we are importing using the dollars in our country, Kenya. And that is why the cost of living is here with us. Mr. Speaker, you will appreciate Germany, Japan are now working on their recession. Generally, on across the whole world, there is a serious recession that is undertaking. And so, therefore, Kenya is not exceptional. And, Mr. Speaker, I have asked my colleagues from the other side of the chamber, castigating, opposing, naysaying on what the president made during the statement, the State of the Nation address. And I want to remind them that on the speech of the president, it was not any promise, but rather an account of what the president has done and what the country has trying to achieve and to turn around the situation of our economy. Number one, Kenya is not endowed with minerals, and therefore we cannot speak of our economy dependent on minerals and export of minerals. Right now, tourism is also facing a lot of challenges. Mr. Speaker, manufacturing sector over time has been killed. You will appreciate to me over recent times, we have even witnessed our local production, milk sector. We now rely on powder milk from foreign countries being imported to our country to be converted into liquid milk for it to be distributed, affecting our own prices. All this put together, the only sector that the president has chosen to take the right direction is on production and on agriculture. And this has assisted to reduce even the dependence that we experienced in the recent months, where we were importing, even including staple food like maize. To an extent, our own minister, CS, are to travel outside the country in pursuing of a land space to plant maize to feed the country. You will agree with me, Mr. Speaker, any nation that is planning to feed its people from importation is a nation that is then to fail. And I want to appreciate the president that by the steps he made, pronouncing a reduction of prices of fertilizer and all farm inputs. As we talk now, production of maize from the region where I'm coming from is now estimated to have grown by more than 40 million bags as compared to the previous financial period. This one, in essence, Mr. Speaker, it tells us now Kenyans are ready to be fed by their own production within the country. This will absorb the aspect of importing with the importation of inflation from foreign countries and creating employment amongst ourselves, because we are foreseeing now value addition being the second